Hi, welcome to Mercurius Being. I am Amy Jensen and I'm here with your astro update for the super full moon of July 3rd, Monday, July 3rd at 6:38 a.m. Central Time. And this is the chart for the super moon. And again, depending on where you are, will depend on what arrangements the planets have in the houses. This is the first of 4 supermoons in a row. Check out earthsky.org for the astronomy of all of this. For our purposes, I'm going to say, just simple terms, moon's closer to the Earth at certain times in its orbit, and it appears brighter, it appears larger, it is intensifying, and it's a full moon, so it's intense already. So this is the first of 4 in a row, July 3rd. The next one's August 1st. The next one after that, which is the closest, is at the end of August, the 30th or the 31st. And then the last one is September 28th or 29th. So just to watch those, and as it is summer here and things are heating up, and things will intensify, and then the moon is kind of jacking it up a little bit more because we are made up of so much water. This truly does affect us physiologically, but also our Earth has so much water. It definitely has an effect on the tides and the weather. So that aside, when I printed out all the charts, I was just want to say one other thing, I guess. It's always interesting to me. I start off at one point, and at this point, it was time for this, time as a concept. And I ended with the concept of time, but everywhere in between, I went down so many different rabbit holes. It was fun, is what it was, okay? And it goes back to this idea of each of us experiencing this experience of this world and of existence. And once we open ourselves up to correlations and synchronicities and wonderful winks from the universe, it's amazing as to how often and how perfectly they show up. Again, kind of in perfect time. As a matter of fact, we'll start into Saturn and the mythology of Saturn. And then I was explaining this to someone. I'm like, oh, wow, I was looking up Saturn and da-da-da-da-da. And then last night in this book I'm reading, towards the end, there was an illustration, and one of the panels of the illustration was the exact depiction of Saturn that I had been discussing earlier in the day with this person. So if you like what I share with you, and thank you for being here and listening and sharing this experience with me through this mode, you also, this is an invitation, to get your own Mercury on and look and open up to these relationships and co-relationships within your life, and just surprise yourself and see what happens, because it is really fun. So, okay. So the first thread that I began with, and I will get back to the chart, but the first thread I began when I started looking into this, I think it's a moth. It's not a butterfly. Well, thank you, butterfly spirit. Which, of course, now I want to look up. I will add that to the bottom. I won't interrupt. I've already stopped this recording a few times because I had to look a couple things up. So I'll look up that. And actually, the first time I started recording this, there were police sirens. The second time I started recording this was a train. So the first time had a little more Martian influence, which was interesting because I definitely was starting off with a little Martian energy. And then Saturn, the train goes by, which is time, right? The Saturn train, time. And then, I don't know if you heard at the beginning of this, cranes were with us. And cranes are about creativity and taking your time to devote to one thing. So let's get back into this one thing, of which there are many. So as I began I pulled this chart out. I began the year back in January, probably solstice actually, and I printed out half the year's charts, and not for necessarily any reason, just because it's a chunk, okay? And this was the last one of that batch that I had printed out. So I just kind of took this moment to think of it as a marker, okay? Like taking a moment to soak in the passage of time, which I know I mentioned at the last, at the solstice video. Saturn, the ruler of Capricorn, the moon is in Capricorn at this full moon, of course, in opposition to the sun, and Mercury in Cancer, the ruler of time and matter, also known as Kronos, Kronos, or Cronus, depicted as an old man leaning on a scythe, usually with an hourglass in the other hand, which always makes me think of the Hermit card in the tarot, but which actually is associated with Virgo. But that's a whole other digression. Glad I didn't go down that rabbit hole. But okay, let's just go back to Kronos. Kronos was married to Rhea, the daughter of Uranus, the sky god, and Gaia, the earth. And they had 6 children. Okay, they had Pluto, Neptune, Vesta, Ceres, Juno, and Zeus. Cronus was the one who he actually castrated Uranus, and out of the ocean's foam rose Aphrodite, or Venus, on a seashell. And actually the blood from that, anyway, the mythology created other beings in the world. But basically, so Kronos kind of banished his sky, banished Uranus to the sky as a sky god and took control of the earth. And then, because he killed his father, it was prophesized that he would kill, or his kids would come up and kill him. So every time Rhea had a child, Pluto, Neptune, Vesta, Ceres, Juno, Saturn ate each of them. And he didn't kill them. Apparently they were just, he had digestive issues, so they were stuck there. Okay, so Rhea finally got onto it with the 6th child, Zeus. She substituted, put a rock in a blanket. Saturn mistakenly ate that. And Zeus eventually came back and did lead an uprising, freed all of his siblings, led an uprising against the father, Saturn, and Saturn eventually was kind of relegated, went to Rome apparently, hung out with Janus the king, and was kind of relegated to more of an agricultural deity in the Roman pantheon. Again, the sickle in one hand and a sheath of wheat in the other. Well, there you go. That probably ties in the Virgo, doesn't it? Because the constellation Virgo is the maiden, and she has a wheat sheath. Or is it corn? Anyway, see, I'm raising all these questions. This is literally what happened. This is like, I thought I was prepared for this video yesterday. Wrong. It's unfolding, but again, as is time, right? Okay, so Zeus took that rock that saved his life and eventually put it in as a relic in Delphi, which was the center of the world to the Greeks at that time. And apparently to find that spot, Zeus released 2 eagles, one from the east and one from the west, and where they crossed is where he put the relic. Okay. And originally, this area, Delphi, was Gaia, Mother Earth's sacred spot, guarded by her child Python, one of her children, Python. But then, so Zeus put the rock there, but then Apollo eventually took the oracle over, the Oracle of Delphi, if you've probably heard of that, to place his temple there. Okay, so Apollo was the sun god, the slaying of the python. It's all of this stuff. I kind of felt like, oh my God, I'm writing way too much stuff down. We're 10 minutes in, you're probably thinking the same thing. But it's interesting how that threaded through. So we'll just keep on going there. Why I needed to look up the latitude and longitude of Delphi, I don't know, but I did. So Delphi was the center of the Greek world on the 40th parallel. What other things are on the 40th parallel? And this is just skimming the surface. That too, because I know I've read other things or heard other things about what's on the 40th parallel. So that's for you to do your own sleuthing. But in the United States, we have New York City on the 40th parallel. We have Philadelphia on the 40th parallel. We have Columbus, Ohio, the northern suburbs of Indianapolis and Boulder, Colorado. Baseline Road is right on the 40th parallel. Ohio State has the 40th parallel marker. 40th parallel divides Nebraska and Kansas. It was supposed to define the boundary between Pennsylvania and Maryland, but a dispute happened. The king measured that incorrectly or something, but they had to employ the British team. I didn't want to go into the whole thing, but so Maryland and Pennsylvania had a border dispute way back in the day. They called in the British team of an astronomer named Charles Mason and a surveyor named Jeremiah Dixon to solve the dispute, which created the Mason-Dixon line, which is at 39 degrees, 43 minutes, 15 seconds north, to 39 degrees, 43 minutes, 23 degrees north. It's like a segmented line. Kind of had to go around Philadelphia. Anyway, also interesting, John Glenn Columbus International Airport. There's a runway lying just north of the 40th parallel to the 40th parallel, and a runway lying south of it. And I didn't write the number down because at the time I was looking this up, I didn't think it was relevant, but it was, and I will get back to that. So just remember that. So I was like, yeah, whatever. John Glenn's a senator, was a senator. I think he was an astronaut. This is me. Yeah, whatever. Anyway, it turned out to be relevant. Okay, so there we go. The 40th parallel, center of the universe, the line going around the world, finding ourselves back here, time passing, the time threading, maybe even the time and the threads around the world, as John Glenn was the first American astronaut to circle the world 3 times. Actually, I might as well go there. So he was one of NASA's original 7 Mercury astronauts. They were called the Mercury 7, and they wore silver spacesuits. This is from NASA, nasa.org itself. His flight on was called on Friendship 7 on February 20th of 1962 showed the world that the U.S. was a serious contender in space race with the Soviet Union. He went on to be, prior to that, he was a World War II Marine pilot, taught other pilots, became a test pilot, set a speed record from LA to New York. So yeah, he went around the Earth 3 times. It took about 5 hours. In 1998, he went to space again with 6 other astronauts. So still the number 7 on a space shuttle. And that allowed NASA to study the effects of space on older people because they knew him so much, because I'm sure they've studied him his whole life, his physical body and mental well-being as well, I'm sure. So they knew everything about him. So and this is from NASA. He was perfect for the job. And at that time, he was 77 years old. I just moved my car before I started shooting this video, so I can go out later before our cat goes into the garage and takes up the whole space. And it was 77 degrees as I moved my car. And then, of course, you know me, I had to look into 7, right? Of course, there's 7 chakras. There are 7 seen planets. I mean, before we discovered Uranus, it was, the sun through Saturn used. 7 and 12 are big numbers, of course, in all systems of all sorts. 7 tones of the scale, not counting the octave, stopping at the 7th. The 7th day of the week, or Sabbath, is a cycle of work and rest, 6 plus 1. And then, of course, this is me. I go from NASA to all kinds of websites to Christianity.com or Christianity.org. And the number 7 appears over 700 times in the Bible. And I believe Jesus had told people to forgive not 7 times, but 70 times 7. And there's many number 7s in the book of Revelations. Jesus had 7 statements at his crucifixion. King David made the reference to God's words being flawless, quote, like gold refined 7 times. In the Bible, the number 7 is referred to as completion or divine fulfillment. In Genesis, God promises to not destroy the earth again with a flood, and memorializes this covenant with a rainbow. And of course, there are 7 colors in the rainbow. And then when I was telling my son this, and I was talking about time, he's like, oh, I was just literally thinking about Pink Floyd's song Time, and how I should listen to not just the song, but the whole of the album. And of course, the album it's on is The Dark Side of the Moon. And if you're familiar with that album cover, it is has refraction of light from a single beam of white light into a rainbow. Anyway, so that all happened this morning. So I'm probably have to work a little backwards. The area, as you can see, right? Gosh, this is what happens. The area of the heavens that this lunation is occurring in, the sun and Mercury are in the area of Ardra, which means soaked, represents storms and raindrops, and of course what occurs after a storm but a rainbow. It's ruled by the deity Rudra, the god of storms, and Rudra is a form of Shiva. And guess what? Guru Purnima, the celebration of the first guru, or the Adi Guru, who was, wait for it, Shiva, is on July 3rd, 2023 this year. It's on the full moon, the first full moon after the summer solstice, which made me think, isn't Easter the first Sunday? Oh I never get this right, even though I should know this. Easter's the first Sunday after the spring equinox, but I think there's a lunation in there as well. I'll give myself more homework on that and look that up, but the tie-in with that. So anyway, Shiva, Rudra, lest I get way too far, let me just say a minute about Guru Purnima. The first full moon after the summer solstice marks the first transmission of the yogic sciences from Shiva, who was the first yogi. His first disciples, the Saptarishis, were, Sapta is 7, or the 7 celebrated sages. And Guru is the dispeller of darkness in the Hindu tradition. So I've got a couple images of Shiva just out here. This is the seated Shiva. You can see the serpent wrapped around his neck, Vasuki, the trident, the number 3, and then the Shiva Nataraj, the dancing Shiva. which of course, because that led me to not look, I've seen this at CERN Labs. They unveiled a Shiva Nataraj statue June 18th in 2004. And Nataraj is the cosmic dancer, represents dynamism. Dance of Shiva manifests. It maintains and dissolves the universe. There are different dances for the upkeep of the karmic cycle. There's the amazing dance, the causation of the universe, the blissful dance, blissful existence of the universe, the incessant dance, the incessant nature of the universe. And then there's the dance of eliminating time and the dissolution of time dance. And this fifth dance, the dissolution of time dance, is the one that's associated with Rudra, the annihilator, the ruler of this particular area of the heavens where the sun and Mercury are in at this lunation. Shiva, as you know, the Om Namah Shivaya is the 5-lettered mantra. And then, of course, I kind of went off on a little tangent about how Oppenheimer, he misquoted the Gita, but he had quoted, now I become death, the destroyer of worlds. And he stated this on 7/16 of 1945, July 16th, 7, July 16th, 1 + 6 is 7. So here we have another 77, and he did that after the first Trinity site. Trinity, the 3, and then the trident of Shiva, the trident of Neptune, which we will be talking about. The trident actually symbolic of the Sushumna Nadi, the central column, the Ida and the Pingala, the right, the left and the right nadis, and then actually there's a symbolism in with the caduceus of Mercury. So again, bringing all those energies to center, but the wayward energies of the right and the left. Wayward, not as bad, I shouldn't just say, but just like the vacillating. Again, the dance, the movement, the right and left, and then in meditation and calmness, we bring it to center, right? So the correct quote would be, I am all, one of the translations, there are so many translations of the Gita, I am all powerful time, which destroys all things. And I have come here to slay these men, even if thou dost not fight, all the warriors facing thee shall die. That's, of course, from the commentary, the dialogue between Krishna and Arjuna on the battlefield. And the reason I bring this up is because if you're not living under a rock, you know that there is a new Oppenheimer film out this summer. July 21st is the release date, and it is by Christopher Nolan, who works a lot with the concept of time. Inception, of course, was about dream sharing technology. Interstellar was a team of NASA scientists, engineers, and pilots attempt to find a new habitable planet via interstellar travel. And then the movie Tenet, these are just but a few. Journey through a twilight world that will unfold in something beyond real, quote, real time. And then, of course, he did The Dark Knight Rises, the Dark Knight trilogy, the Batman movies with trilogy, of course, 3 of them, with the world's best actor and my future boyfriend, Christopher, I did this the other day. I actually called him Christopher Bale the other day, Christian Bale. So I guess maybe he's not my boyfriend yet, but anyway. So time, all over the place. Time, 7, 5, 3, 1, 3, 5, 7. Not the Fibonacci series, but anyway, 1, 3, 5, 7, odd numbers. Ardra, are you with me so far? Okay, Ardra clears the air. How about that? Whoosh, after all of that information right now. Rainstorm clears the air. The air is freshly ozonated, right? this destruction happens not just for destruction's sake, but to make space for new creation. And Rudra, the red one, the element of destruction and storms, allows Brahma, the god of creation, the time to rest and restore. While Rudra and all his children destroy everything, Buddha can lay back and rest. And then when they're done destroying, it's like the demo crew, right? They come in, they demo everything so that things can be built. It allows us to rest and to rest into peacefulness. It allows us to unlearn and to destroy ignorance and forget what should be forgotten, okay? When the destructive force of Ardra is given spiritual direction, it dismantles the false ego and allows one entry into blessed realms of being. And I believe that's all from Vic DiCara's book, and I'll note that below. So that's the area of the heavens where the sun and Mercury are. I literally am working backwards, you guys. Went from page, well, actually 1 to page 7 to page 5. Now I'll go to page 6. Thank you. If you're still there, thank you. Okay, so the moon is in the area of the heavens called Purva, Ashadha, or the invincible, represented by the elephant tusk or a fan. The deity is Apas, or the goddess of water. Cooling, calming water in many forms. Resting and recuperating into water. This area of the heavens imparts invincibility like water, strong enough to destroy stone, yet still soft and cool. So there's this idea of strength, but through purifying, through cleansing. Strength through the power of water. Water pooling together a wide range of skills and resources to become successful. This area of the heavens, and it's a 2-part nakshatra area. The second part is even more emphasized, but it's really kind of a culmination of waters, like all of the water energies are involved. The god of rains, Apas's husband Varuni is the god of water. Soma, which is another name for the moon, but it's also that nectar, right? The ambrosia, granting health and nourishment. And Agni, the god of fire, also takes part in here in this area of the heavens, because in water, Agni can rest. It can lay back and cool its heels and rest and recuperate. Okay. I'm going to jump from there back to my second page, which was, there's just a lot of water and earth in this lunation. And I was going into water and thinking of, well, that's actually page 3, of the work of Dr. Emoto, who did all the work with ice crystals and like talking or putting even like words underneath the glasses of water with ice crystals. And if it's like it was a love word, love and peace or harmony, the crystals would form beautiful and symmetrical designs. And if they were angry, ugly, inharmonious words, the crystals would be all in non like symmetrical forms, just chaotic form. So there's a lot of water and earth at this lunation. Let's go back to the chart. We have the moon in Capricorn, that's earth. We have Pluto in Capricorn, earth. We have Mercury and the sun in Cancer, that's water. We have Uranus, Jupiter, North Node, all in Taurus, which is earth. We have Saturn and Neptune, newly actually today as I record this, it's going retrograde. Saturn went retrograde just around the time of the last lunation. All of those, water and earth. So there's just a lot of water and earth at this time in this chart. Blended, complementary elements, water and earth. There's a lot of, sense of, I'm going to flip back to Cancer, Capricorn polarity. Cancer, interconnected parent, interlinked parent, the idea of the nourishing and nurturing and supported, emotions and intuition. Capricorn, the outer linked parent, shows you how the world works. And Capricorn is all about time and discipline and boundaries. So we have the flowing, reflective nature of Cancer. I always think of Cancer as lake water. Lake water has a boundary of earth. Cancer is ruled by the moon. And then the moon is in the sign of Capricorn. So we've got this polarity. The moon is in its detriment, we say, when it's in Capricorn. It's opposite the sign it rules, which is Mercury. It's unfamiliar and uncomfortable territory. But as it's in that area, we're feeling into different types of structures and different types of knowledge. The sun is in watery Cancer. So the operating system of Cancer is intuitive. It is feeling its way through this area. It's going by instinct. It's reflecting upon, it's reflecting into memories and time. And the moon rules cycles. So even though Capricorn Saturn is all about time and form and matter, the moon and Cancer is as well. And the moon reflects, the moon changes all the time. And people count time by the moon, or had counted time by the moon. The moon rules cycles and fluctuations. The Mercury is right alongside the sun at this lunation, and Mercury and the sun just had their superior conjunction in the heavens on July 1st at, I think it was 12:06 a.m. Central Time, Saturday, July 1st. So in the Mercury workshop we do the work around the Mercury inferior conjunction when Mercury is lined up. So here's the sun, let's do it this way, sun, Mercury, us, at the inferior conjunction. So we use that time. It's during the Mercury retrograde period where we do soul searching. We go within, and then we talk to Mercury. We say, hey, Mercury, send this message to the sun. There's this alignment. This is all symbolic work. And we have that moment where the three are lined up, the Mercury closest to between the earth and the sun. 2 days before this lunation, Mercury now, so earth, the sun, Mercury has come all the way around the other side. They're still in alignment, Mercury, sun, earth, but it's the far side of the sun. I was just the dark side of the moon, far side of the sun. So it's as far away from us. It's really kind of taking our message, perhaps that we seated with the god of communication, the messenger god Mercury, at the inferior conjunction, and now it's like boomeranged out as far as it's going to go away from us. Mercury is at evening star, and once it gets to the max evening elongation, that will herald the beginning of the next retrograde phase. Mercury, interestingly, draws a 6-pointed star in the heavens. In these conjunctions, it draws a triangle, 3 points with the inferior conjunctions in the same element of the year. This is an earth year. And then the complementary conjunctions, superior conjunctions, are all in the sign of water, or water signs. So they're complementary elements. Mercury in Cancer with the sun is bringing reason into water, learning to communicate through imagery, imagination, bringing a sense of feeling into knowingness and knowingness into feeling. Honoring this type of information receiving, just as I talked about before. Not everybody's going to get it. Not everybody's going to get it, but you're going to get it, and you're going to receive the messages, and you're going to find other people, Cancer, you're going to find your tribe of other people who understand and get you as you're interpreting and relaying these messages based on feelings and knowingness and intuition and images. Honoring dreams, and again, honoring intuition and knowingness. Okay, so at this, before I switch into the fire signs, I'm going to stay on with the water and earth signs. So Uranus, interestingly, has a septile to Mercury, 0 degrees. I keep my septiles pretty tight, my super minor aspects pretty tight. But septile, it's the 7th harmonic. That's dividing, those are the series of aspects formed by dividing the circle in 7 parts. So thank you, number 7, for once again showing up. But 7 showed up early in the game because I had that on page 3 before I went down the number 7 rabbit hole. So Uranus is the higher octave of Mercury. So it has a septile, a 7th harmonic aspect to Mercury. It's a serendipity aspect. As I talk about the other type of time, serendipity plays into that as well, but I'm going to save that for Neptune. Uranus is the higher octave of Mercury. So if you think of the scale, musical scale being 7, sometimes you think of it as 8, because the 8th note is the octave. So Uranus is the 8th note to Mercury. If Mercury is do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, and then it repeats itself on the 8th note, the do. Anyway, there's that. Uranus, the higher octave of Mercury, both very mental, mind over mind. So mind, Mercury at that lower do or sa, as we say, and then Uranus at the higher octave, so mind over mind. And then I was thinking of the uber mind, the over mind, the 7th harmonic division of a circle. It's an uneven division of the circle and results in an irrational number, one that doesn't repeat and goes on to infinity. So it's kind of not an earthly number. It's more like uncompleted. Interestingly, I think in the biblical stuff I brought up, in the biblical use of the number 7, 7 is completed, or but it reveals a divine completion or divine fulfillment. So if there's something that needs to be completed or fulfilled, it's not necessarily going to be an earthly one. It's going to be more of a divine nature or a more spiritual nature. Okay. So it's not it's a 51 degree aspect. Uranus and Mercury conjuncted back on June the 4th, one day after the Sagittarius full moon, which I think at that time I did a video called Disrupt the Programming. So any gifts of insight that came out of that seeding, and I think I told you to go out in nature, and not that you do what I tell you to do, but like suggestions were like, go out in nature, do things different, breathe differently, like just experience time and space differently. So some of those different practices maybe you did, what has resulted from that? Maybe you'll have some insight into that. So Mercury is out there astronomically from where we are, past the Earth again, past the sun, away from us. And now the benefit of doing things differently, against the grain, Uranus, more intuitively and weirdly, even though that's such a mental thing, more somatically, more in the body, more feeling. Okay, so more somatically, more soma-centered, more soma-centric. What information can you glean from your own cells? Memories, which the moon rules. The Body Keeps the Score, that book, things caught and held and retained within the cells of the body. Breath, fluidity in the joints, voice, the Mercury, any use of the voice. Work with water, okay, water work, salt baths, swimming, drinking, again, that Dr. Emoto, when you drink water at this lunation, imbue it with the positivity that you'd like, just simple joy, love, anything, peace, right? Harmony, good stuff, simple things. And all of this stuff goes way back, right? This sounds new agey, new whatever, but this is old stuff. And it really comes into just being mind over matter, that uber mind, and then mind in matter, the undermind. Undermined. Isn't that interesting? Undermined. One can undermine something. But if you get under your own mind and into your own body, you will have, actually probably goes into the scorpionic water of understanding the subconscious water. Okay, wow, that went a long ways. The full moon is on a Monday. Monday is ruled by the moon. One of the mantras for the moon is Om Som Somaya Namaha. And somatic is from the Greek somato, meaning the body of an organism. The body as opposed to spirit, material substance, mass, a person, a human being. And so we think of the mother with the moon. We think of materiality with the moon, coming into this world, having a physical body. Okay, where am I going with that? I think I threw away page 4. Having a physical body. Cancer, the moon. We're going to stop right there. I think that's enough. Going into the outliers at this time. Venus, Mars, Chiron are in fire signs. There's no air going on. Okay, which is interesting because the air has been so bad, at least in the United States, so bad. But hopefully the rains will come and clear the air. But, so we have Venus and Mars like on a little Leo holiday, which is funny. When I started this on page 1 the other day, I got the image that Mars and Venus are like on a Greek holiday. They're on an island. They're having a great time. They are not actually going to exactly conjunct, by the way. But they're very close. They're having a fire sign party, as it were. Chiron, the wounded healer in Aries, playing into that like agency of the body, enjoyment of the body. Chiron in Aries, being in the body, doing things again, even if you're afraid. And this is, again, kind of a minor, like I said, a kind of off topic with the lunation, but at the same time not, because I get the sense that Mars and Venus in Leo, because they square, or Uranus squares them both, kind of act as a trigger. So even with all this water and earth going on, I get this sense that Mars and Venus squaring Uranus in Taurus has this kind of trigger energy. And anyway, kind of upsetting the apple cart. There's just a little bit of that. So there's on one hand either a triggering Uranus to the earth, like a kind of a combustibility maybe, or a complete oblivion. Like I said, these lovers on a Greek island, like we'll always have Delphi, right? Okay, bringing it back in, bringing it all home. So on the 17th of July, we do have the nodes, which at this lunation are at 0 degrees Taurus. They will be switching into Aries and Libra. So the north node will be in Aries, the south node will be in Libra. So then we'll be adding to the fire in the chart at that time, and the cardinality as well. And then on July 23rd, Pluto will be squaring the nodes. So shaking things up a little bit, but I'll be back before then to talk about that. So I guess where I'm going with this, there's just this water and earth elements, but there is disruption potentially triggered, but also not the calm before the storm, like the calm before the storm, but also the storm's ability to clear out. If you see where I'm going, Neptune going retrograde today. I'm going to blame this all on Neptune retrograde, that my brain was all over the place. So it will be retrograde until December 6th. Saturn is also retrograde, and that will go direct in November. Interesting that Saturn and Neptune are so Neptune will be in Pisces until March 2025. Saturn just went into Pisces March 7th of 2023, and it'll be in there until May 24th, 2025. So interesting that Saturn is kind of ending Neptune's time in Pisces, and interesting that it'll kind of begin its time in Aries together, because Saturn moves through a sign every 2.5 years. Neptune takes about 14. Neptune in Pisces is, we've talked about that before, but again, it's just really a great opportunity for this deep dive into spirituality of all forms, meditation, music, introspection, poetry, photography, art, but a heightened danger of escapism and all shadow Neptune things, sensitivity to alcohol, drugs, and sugar. Dissociation's a bit more Uranus, but just like really losing oneself in the ocean. Digital addiction, escapism through screens, also huge. Saturn, of course, the god of time, like we began with, in the sign of Pisces, which is the collective unconscious. It's the dark, deep waters that erode everything. Saturn in Pisces trying to bring form to formlessness. And again, I think I mentioned in the last video, form, us, to formlessness, spirit. I'm going to bring it all home now, people. Thank you for your patience. We started off talking about chronos and time. Chronos, the Greek word for Saturn, but also the Greek word for time. And another Greek word for time is kairos, Kairos, a time when conditions are right for the accomplishment of a crucial action, the opportune and decisive moment. So chronos is like strict measurement. It's watch time, it's hours, it's equal, it's measurable. And kairos is important, like as a significant time, significant moment. It is deep time. They are moments that feed your soul. Qualitative time, flowing time, absorptive time. That sense when you lose yourself in something, you're enjoying it so much that you lose yourself in all sense of time, that immersive sense of time. How do we get into that sense of time? Connecting to nature, meditating, listening to or playing music, walking, yoga, anything that uses your body but not, but in a flowing sense, making art, contemplation, reading, being open and listening, being present, and being away from Chronos and its reminders. It's a sense of time standing still. Of course, then I thought of Rush's song, Time Stands Still. It's the sense of an opportune time of opportunity and serendipity, and you can't control it. You just need to be open to it. It's the right time to do something because it feels right, not because you think it's the right time or you have to do it at that time. It's a sense of having the right thing to say at the right time. And then finally, this sense of time out of time. And speaking of time, thank you for sharing your time. This meandered quite a bit, and I appreciate it if you've hung in there. And if you haven't, that's cool too. I guess you're not here to hear that. But go on and meander. And what is it? All who wander are not lost. So wander in the high summer sun, enjoy this full moon, and enjoy your time outside of time.